Today I'm talking with Dmitri Godamunne with Capacity. Dmitri, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business.
Hey there, Kelly. Thanks for having us on here. My name is Dmitri Godamunne. I'm the current CEO of Cap City Inc. We started as a co-working company back in 2008, and since then we've made some pivots. We now call ourselves more of a community development institution. We primarily operate in two areas. One is, of course, shared office space co-working is our primary company, Cap City Co-working, and then our secondary is Buffalo Pizza and Ice Cream, and through that we serve pizza and ice cream. So I have experience pertaining to this stuff, operating both food retail and office space, and it's been one heck of a ride during Corona times.
Wow, I bet. Prior to Corona really spinning us all for a loop, what were your plans with your businesses?
So I'll probably answer both questions, just splitting them between the two companies, Buffalo and Cap City. So right during, we just had some wonderful timing, and hopefully you could hear it in the tone of my voice, absolute bit of sarcasm there, that we had a project in development, under construction, set to come out of construction. This is our shared office space. This was March, April of 2020. So we were coming online, or supposed to be coming online, right when Corona hit us. So as far as making pivots as a business, we are a case example of that. Very unfortunate to see. I could just tell you some kind of the business data going into Corona, or before Corona had hit. We had a new space that I'm currently sitting and speaking out of here. We have about 24 offices, and of those 24 offices, I think we had something like 60, 70% of them. They were leased out, or membered up, what we call them, before Corona. When Corona hit, kid you not, it went down all the way to one office, and we have built that up. We made some significant pivots, primarily around preservation of cash, and we've had to kind of push out some of our developments that we really wanted to do this year. We've just had to push those out into next year, really put those on hold. Some of them are indefinite, but some of them we're doing our best to accomplish. So that's really our space operating business. Our office space had to make some significant pivots, and really kind of change the design elements a little bit. We've had to focus really on, it's a two-story development. We've really focused much more on the first floor, and pushed out the second floor. So I can speak to some development angles to this, Kelly, if it's helpful. If not,
Yes,
just
yes.
continue going here. So for the development angles, I can tell you, one of the ways that we were able to kind of weather the storm through Corona times, because there's nothing like coming online with a brand new office space in a period of time where there was a shelter in place order issued, and nobody really at the beginning had a firm understanding of what we were going through. Right? Nobody at the time, it was much more, oh my God, I'd rather just not walk outside. I'd rather just stay in my house, and err on the side of caution. And that, of course, drastically impacted our business. I think in that first month, we saw at our original location off of 21st Street in Sacramento, I would say we lost probably 50% of our members within that first 30 days. A combination of both office space and virtual members that just get access to the general space of the company. So right out the gates, it was much more of what's going on. And throughout the process, we've of course been lucky to be present on a number of business groups. We have some direct relationships with the city. We sit on a tech council, things like that, where we were able to get information fairly quickly, relatively, that could feed our company. And through those kind of information sources, and becoming aware of the programs, we were able to really try to gain access to better information, better resources. Resources came in the form of both financial resources and equipment resources, things like cameras and temperature checks, or infrared cameras, I should say, and temperature checks. So we've made some pivots along the way just to address that, and we'll talk about in that later on in the conversation. But out the gates, it was much more managing. I would say managing a lot of the mindsets, because there was a lack of true understanding of what was going on. This is in the infancy, in probably March, April, May of 2020. So that's Cap City Co-working. On the Buffalo front, Buffalo Pizza, which we have been fairly lucky, and really it really came down to luck as far as our positioning in the marketplace. We didn't have a lot of seating, right? We only have a few tables outside. We're primarily a takeout friendly business. But going into this, we were a business that was heavily dependent on government employees. We were that pizza shop that we were breakfast pizza shop is what we're known for, and we were open 6 days a week, serving breakfast pizza primarily from 8 a.m. Into the early afternoon. And right when Corona hit, of course, and our number one customer base was government employees, state employees, because we're located in downtown Sacramento. And pretty much within those first couple months, as we all are very well aware, all of the downtown office space is shut down, starting with really the state government and then city government. So we lost within probably 30 days, we lost probably 70% of our revenue overnight. And we had to make some significant changes. We even went through a complete shutdown at the very beginning because one person felt that they had contracted it. And at the time, it was one of those, nobody knew when they can get their Corona test. They could take a test, but they had no indication or idea, is it going to be 2-day turnaround or a month turnaround? And so back in the day, back in March 2020, we had somebody test for Corona, and they really only said that they felt bad. But just due to overly precautionary kind of situations, we made the decision to shut down, and we were shut down for a period of time in March, April of last year. And that had massive consequences to the business. So how did we kind of adapt and overcome that? First, as far as losing most of our customer base in a very short time, we adapted our business and went very, very heavy on the nighttime shifts. We're not unique in the next department, which is, and there's pros and cons to this, is really with the third-party delivery platforms, the DoorDash, the Grubhubs, the Postmates, things like that. We really added into our business, not necessarily for operational needs, but really just to get us access to those different marketplaces. Typically, somebody signs on those and scrolls through and selects it. So for us, it was much more of a, we need to get access to new markets because they don't know who we are at this time. They don't know that we capable of being open. We're starting to open new nighttime shifts. So it was really just adapting to the marketplace, which was much more of a delivery centric marketplace. We benefited from that because that was our primary bread and butter, but it was delivery to offices, right? State office buildings. Since then, we've seen our delivery rates skyrocket. Before it was give or take, 60-40-ish in favor of pickup over delivery. Now that's inverted, and it's probably much more closer to 65-35% now delivery, and those deliveries are no longer in-house. We've kind of outsourced that. So we've made some pivots along the way. Hopefully I can help you give a little more specifics, Kel, if you've got any questions that can help me get some better answers, but
Sure.
let me know
No.
here.
Yeah, no, that's great. Congratulations. It sounds like you found a way to survive with everything going on. I think what would really benefit our viewers is what kind of operational protocols did you have to put in place for both businesses to make your customers and your employees feel safe?
Yeah, so we right out the gates, we're very lucky. So going back to our first company, the co-working side, within our company fold, we had a couple nurses. So two different companies. One was doing staffing, one was doing coordination for dialysis machines. And right out the gates, we had access to some very good medical personnel that can put together a COVID response plan. So within a few, probably right around April, May of last year, when some additional information started to come down the pipeline, that's when we really started to make some shifts, standard kind of stuff. We boosted up our cleaning schedule. Our cleaning supply budget probably went up, 20% or so, 15-20%. We boosted up as far as the frequency, and we actually also changed the schedule so that the cleaning crew, we made sure that they would come out during hours of operation instead of typically coming out at post 8 p.m. at night. We asked that they come out during the daytime, just so that there was also, in addition to the cleanliness, but there was also that intent to show the customers that yes, we are going above and beyond, just to have that feeling of better safety because they've actually seen the cleaning actually happen. So that was one area. Another area is we incorporated those standard. I'm drawing a blank here, but when you walk into the office, everybody's got to go through your standard temperature check. Very, very simple. It's not like somebody walks up to you and points the infrared, a piece at your head. It's you walk up to a wall system, just point your head at a dot, put your face in the frame, and within a split second, you're good to go. Haven't had any issues with that. Very, very fortunate. So I would say the three major ones was right out the gates. We came up with a policy and procedure handbook. A couple of the specifics that I can speak to on that were just, overly sensitive as far as if anybody has any indication of a scratchiness in their throat or anything like that, do not show up. So that was rule number one. Moving from that, it came much more to if you feel or moving through the timeline over the course of 2020, it became much more of the if you feel a certain way, then start by seeing your doctor, get a check, get your blood drawn, and get some test results, especially as test results became shall we say more widely available, and the response time to get the results shortened quite a bit. As I mentioned at the beginning of it, we waited, I think, a full 6 weeks before somebody even got their results back. Was not a good decision for the business, but we've adapted since then. And now, since we can get it back within 2 days, it's much easier to say, hey, isolate for a second, get your test results. Based on those test results, you can come back into the office space. So the co-working was always a private member access, which we had much better checks and balances. We were never open to the public to begin with, so there was always, and everybody was a close-knit community, much more of a family environment because everybody knew each other. So it was relatively easier to weather the storm with our co-working company. On the other side of the equation, with our food service company, the pizza shop, it was much, much harder because we had a lot more public facing interaction, customers all day, right? A few hundred customers or a couple hundred customers every day coming into the store. And so some of the new policies that we went with, where we actually fully changed the layout of the point of sale transaction point in the business. We spent some money redesigning the place and made it contactless friendly. So we moved our point of sale. Luckily, Square point of sale has some great systems in place where we never had to collect the credit card. We went away from receiving any kind of cash sales for a period of time. We since brought those back starting earlier this year. But we really went contactless heavy. We required masks for any customer that enters a store. And going back to the co-working, we of course included that policy. If you're engaged in conversation, you're around people, please make sure that you're wearing a mask. And we always had touch points throughout the day on that. But going back to the food service, we made sure that everybody had a mask when they came into the place. For all of our crew, we had temperature checks before starting shifts. And we just always erred on the shy side of caution. Since March of last year, we've had 3 different shutdowns. Each shut down because one person got, shall we say, had feelings of getting sick or tested positive for getting sick on one occasion, where we did the standard shut down the store for a period of time, fully wiped down, hired professional outside cleaning crews, fully wiped down and disinfected the space, and made every attempt to come back online as quickly and as efficiently as possible. I could definitely speak to that kind of stuff, Kelly, if you'd like to hear that, because that is really the much harder piece of the equation. I would like to
Yeah.
add to this in the sense of a lot of this as, if you're speaking to business owners in the small business environment or business managers in the small business environment, just as much as implementing, the technical safety procedures and protocols and, creating new additional language in the employee handbooks or, changing the actual workflow of the business. Those are all, yes, you need to do those things, but just as important that we've kind of gone through is actually managing much more of the human element to this, which is, there is the full spectrum across, how an individual has felt about this situation. On one side of the spectrum, we've got masks all the time. If you're walking in a park, masks all the time. And then on the other side, we've had individuals that just don't believe in it at all. And the truth is always somewhere in the middle. But of course, in this situation, it's error on the side of caution. So I bring that up because so much of what I've experienced, what we've experienced as a company, is really just around managing viewpoints and managing kind of the psyche around this situation. I can tell you on certain case examples, we've had individuals that have literally gone and locked themselves and not locked, but kind of went home and haven't come out and really haven't wanted to go for a walk in the parking lot kind of thing. And of course, everybody knows that's just not really necessarily that logical, but we have to understand all of our, the members and the consumers, and we just have to work with all different types of viewpoints around this. And that's made it, frankly, it's made it quite difficult to manage so many different viewpoints around this situation. So what have we done to kind of counter those, a whole host of spectrum mentalities? We'll say is, we've brought in those nurses that I mentioned. We've had them create these plans. We've had them create some one pagers as far as just simple information as to timelines. If you come into contact with somebody, here are the timelines around that. Trace it back. Who have you come in contact with? We've gone through all these kind of exercises with individuals, and that's primarily number one, of course, to track if there's any kind of increased risk of spread throughout the company, first and foremost. But second, it's also to kind of walk the individual through an exercise that can really help create some confidence that there isn't necessarily always a need to go home and shut the door and kind of shut off from life. We are a business. We're always going to do everything we can to stay in business and keep moving forward. And we've really taken a mentality over the course of this. At the beginning, right, it was much more, we don't know what's going on. Let's err on the side of caution. Let's shut down just to be safe for a period of time. If you ask us that same question in the last probably 30 days or so, it's much more of a, hey, we've dealt with this before. We know that we can get through it, and we have confidence that we can get through it. We just got to always be logical and be safe and continue to the social distancing and wear masks. But we really also have to carry with us that mentality that, the sun's going to rise again tomorrow. This is just another business issue that we have to overcome. As we know, as small business owners and managers, there's just so many already that we have to adapt and overcome to. This is just another one of those. So I bring that up because so much of addressing this, in addition to the protocols and the policies and procedures, is also just on the helping support the mindset of everybody going through this. So hopefully that was some value to you, Kelly. If I can expand on that, you let me know here.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think it really touches on the need to stay ready to um, pirouette again and change with more information as it comes down to us as business leaders, and also the need to communicate with our employees and our customers and know everyone's coming from different places of mind. With all of that said, it sounds like you've done a lot of work in getting both of your business products kind of safe for customers and for employees. What of those new procedures that you've put in place or products that you've put in place, the investments you've made, what do you see continuing to be used well after the pandemic's over?
Well, I mean, I certainly think that the temperature check, entry access point stuff, that's probably going to continue on for a period of time. I would certainly think that masks are going to be, continued on for a period of time, but I think that's going to be largely dependent on kind of, it's going to be reduced from where it is, in the sense where I see people outside, and this happens to this very day, where they're walking by themselves with a dog, or they're inside their own car with the windows rolled up with masks on. I think that there's a fair amount of evidence out by now that that's not necessarily the need. The real need is when we're around each other, right? Where we're engaged in conversation, where we're in close proximity with each other. So what I would like to see happen, and where I think is going to happen, is just this slow. We hit the curve, we went up, and then slowly but surely we're gonna go down. I'm happy to hear that there's numerous vaccines that are coming online here, and hopefully the access to those is going to get easier and easier over time, and that should change the landscape indefinitely. But I would say the two primary ones are going to be the mask and the temperature checks, before we can really start getting back to this new normal, or post pandemic, however you want to call it. I just keep going back to this this statement, which is the sun will rise again tomorrow. We will get through this. Just keep moving forward, and we're going to get better and better and stronger after this.
That's great. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Now we all have a responsibility for safety and public health everywhere we go. When we go to work, when we go to the grocery store, when we go get our pizza. What message do you have for customers, and how they can help be a part of making their experiences safer when they come into your business?
Well, you ended it with the safer comment, but before we get into the how we can make it safer, I'll speak to this, and this is primarily for the pizza crew. How can we make it a little easier for our people? I would say for all customers coming into the shop, just having a better understanding of hey, it's hard enough as it is to make pizzas within a certain amount of time, or scoop ice cream with a certain amount of time. It's completely unnecessary, and it's not going to speed up the process to have a bad attitude when you're engaging with somebody. If it's just, hey sir or miss, can you please put on your mask? So first and foremost, it's just respect that element of it. That's for our crew. The second thing, as far as what we can do to better serve our customer base, I think we've largely done that, is creating just the contactless systems, and creating, of course, just as any business, regardless of Corona, we just want to create a more efficient transaction. Why is a more efficient transaction really helpful? It's because you really reduce the amount of time that the customer is spending around other people when they enter into the shop. So from a safety perspective, if we can get them in and get them out with as minimal contact as possible, that certainly is a positive. Where I can say that the con to that, though, is we're always going to be a very people-centered business. We always want those customer relationships. We don't want to be that company where, oh, come in and get on out of here. So in many ways, it is a negative to us. But at least for the I would say at least the next first quarter or so, we're gonna really try to remain a little more true to the contact list, a little less engagement, relatively speaking, before we go back to the old days, which is with many of our customers, a high five and a thanks for coming out, and we'll see you next time here. Just can't do that anymore, but we'll get back there.
Right. So now, as we look into the future, and the sun will rise and we'll have another day, what, from both a personal and a business perspective, what are you looking forward to?
What am I looking forward to? Well, I mean, we're in a new year, and we're very. I mean, I'm not too sure who the customer base is going out, but I could tell you that we're very fortunate to live in a place called Sacramento, California, and you can't tell about the outside, but we're supposed to be in the middle of our winter, and we've had wonderful sun. I mean, wonderful sun. Sacramento is a great place to be in the summertime. I'm very happy to see that. There was a couple periods of time where we had to shut down and open back up and shut down again, and that was just such a hassle. I feel like there's some confidence out there where moving forward, we're going to be able to slowly turn things back online. So now we've got outdoor dining's coming back online. I think indoor dining's set to come online in the next few months, I would imagine. So I'm just very hopeful that there's going to be a group consensus that, hey, we're getting close to the time where we're overcoming this. We've got a vaccine rolling out, or vaccines rolling out. We can start getting back into the office place and start getting back on our feet. So I'm very hopeful that 2021 is going to be the turning point for all of this, and then we've got an early spring and hopefully early summer upon us. So I'm really hopeful of those two things.
That's awesome. We can tell from your interview you're a very optimistic person. We need more of that now more than ever. Is there anything else you want to share with your customers, your employees, about the future?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, the number one thing, we've touched on it, throughout this question and answer here. As with pretty much everything in life, so much of it is just attitude. I mean, just having the right attitude going into this. I can tell you, nobody's had a situation like this to go through as a small business. especially a small business that is a business of businesses. We've got, in our shared office space. So I can tell you right now, the number one thing that everybody needs to carry with them is just the positive attitude, the right attitude going into this, because it's not easy. Everybody knows this. It is not easy. It's one of the few things in humanity that really has kind of brought us all together in many ways, and in some ways, it's kind of pushed us apart physically. That's another thing I'm very, very hopeful for, is that we as humans, we love working with each other, and we want to be around each other. So I will always say, the number one thing that you should carry with you is just having the right attitude that we can overcome this, we will overcome this, and keep moving forward doing it.
That is fantastic. I thank you so much for your time today, Dmitri. We will be talking with some other business owners. It was great to get your perspective from both food service and your office sharing space. Again, a business of businesses. Thank you so much for your time, and be safe.
Yeah, you too, Kelly. Thanks for having me, and we'll be in touch.